Okay, you're live.
Hi everyone, it is Olivia Smalley at OMG Artistry, Joico brand storyteller. Today we have so many hair hacks that I'm going to be showing you. I'll be going through a bunch of different ones, of course, but I'm also going to be showcasing to you guys our brand new Lumi 10 from Joico, 100% great coverage in just 10 minutes, which is amazing. I have my assistant and my model today here, Courtney. So we're going to jump right into the technique, right into the hacks, okay? I want you guys to participate. I want you to be writing comments. Did you know that if you actually will ask questions, you can be entered into the giveaway? That's going to be a youth lock kit, a Lumi 10 kit, and a color intensity kit. So make sure you engage. Are you ready, Courtney?
I'm ready.
Okay, fantastic. So first things first, as a part of my first hack, we have to dive into protecting the hair first and foremost. So I'm going to turn my girly around. So I like to use the Joico Defy Damage. This is the Pro Series #1. So this is an ultra dry formula that is going to protect the hair before, during, and after the services. It prevents breakage up to 80%, which is amazing. It does not alter the lift at all. It actually will help to enhance the lift. Do you see how much I'm shaking this bottle? Shake, 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 and shake some more, okay? You wanna make sure that you're distributing the product evenly, but that you're also shaking it to distribute the product evenly. So what I do is I will take my sections. I'll actually ask my client to put her head back. And what I'm gonna be doing on her technique today is I'm actually going to be doing a Tweener Stairmaster technique, okay? A Tweener Stairmaster is basically going to look like a grown out balayage, but to really, and let me show the front, and to really just bring this all up, bring it all up as a pick-me-up. She does have, look down for me, she does have just like a few, I like to call them like sprinkles of gray, right? She's in that kind of 25% range as you go through. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to start by protecting the hair, and then I'm going to jump right into lightening the hair. Once she's almost ready, about 10 minutes before being ready, that's when I'm going to put the Lumi 10 100% great coverage on her hair. Okay, so just to get started, I'm going to be taking my Defy Damage Pro Series #1, and I'm going to be taking sections. And you want to make sure that you're not spraying this in her face, not spraying it in your face, but you're going to want to be using spurts, not an aerosol spray, okay? So spurt, 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 spurt. I'm using my finger to separate the hair individually. Has anyone out there used the Defy Damage Pro Series #1 and #2? I love it. You could just see instantly how shiny the hair gets just from spraying in it. So you could actually do this on a client that's just coming in for a haircut. You could have them just coming in for a toning service or just like a color melt service. So what I would always recommend is whatever you charge for your toners, whatever you charge for your color melts is the same price that you're going to charge for a Defy Damage treatment. So for instance, for a toner, we charge $55, that's additional too. So in the salon, we don't want to work more. We want to make more. And by doing that is when we take our services to the next level and we do add-on services, right? So think about it like this. Let's say you're charging $50, right? $50 for a Defy Damage treatment. And you have 5 clients a day, right? So additionally, that is $250 additional per day. Now, let's say you work at the salon 4 days a week. That is an additional $1,000 in Defy Damage treatments per week, right? Now, let's say you work 52 weeks. Do the math. That is $52,000, okay? So $52,000 additional for just adding on a treatment, that takes you absolutely no time, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is, since I am gonna be doing around her money piece, this is my additional hair hack. So you see, after every time I use it, I'm shaking it up. Shake, 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 shake. What I like to do is I will actually take a brush, okay? And just for demonstration purposes, move your head that way. There we go. So what I do is I take a brush and I'll actually take that Defy Damage and spray it on the brush, okay? And what that allows me to do is to get around her hairline, because this is where I'm gonna be doing the lightening, but I don't wanna spray it right there, but I wanna make sure that it's fully saturated, right? So right where her money piece is, right where her side piece is, I'm definitely making sure that I'm applying that Defy Damage, turn, 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 in her hair, right? You guys like that tip? So now she is fully protected. So what I like to just mention about Defy Damage Pro Series #1 and #2, so this is the first step, right? Then you'll go through your processing, your lightening, your Lumi 10, whatever, your color melts, your root taps, whatever. Tone the whole thing. The last step is where the Pro Series number 2 comes into play, okay? Once you're fully done with your tones, then you're gonna shampoo out your toner and then go in with your Pro Series number 1, your Pro Series number 2. Leave this on for 10 minutes, okay? After that 10 minutes, you're gonna wanna lightly shampoo it out and then add a little bit of conditioner and you're done, okay? And then your styling products, of course. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna jump into the lightening process of her. So let me explain what a Stairmaster technique is for those of you guys that are just tuning in right now. Stairmaster technique basically means that we go closer, further, 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 further back. So what that looks like sideways is closer, further back, further back, further back, further back. It actually will create a stair-like look when you're doing the foils. All right, so there's a few techniques that actually go along with this in order to create a seamless blend. It is not very often that when I do this technique that I even have to color mount her. Because of the way that I'm teasing, the way that I'm processing, it is actually allowing me to have a more organic blend inside of the hair. So let's jump right into that. So as for my next hack, okay, well, how often do you guys feel like you get bleeders in the hair? Why do we get bleeders? Okay, so let's think about this with our developers. All right, so we have here, this is the LumiShine 20 volume developer, and then this is the Lawn Life. This is 9 levels plus of lift, super ultra protecting inside of the hair. So when we go through developers, 5 volume, 10 volume, 20 volume, right? The higher, the volume or the developer is, that means that there's more oxygen in that developer. So what that means additionally is when there's more oxygen, there's more expansion, okay? More expansion for the cuticle to open up for you to be able to process that hair, right? Well, what ends up happening is sometimes when we do our lightener, okay, which I'm gonna show you guys, sometimes what ends up happening is when we take our lightener, we will actually add more oxygen than we need. Now, what do I mean by that? When we go to grab our developer and we pour that developer in, okay, we whip it up like a mad person, right? You laugh, but we all do it, right? You whip it up like a mad person, and guess what? You're adding more oxygen. So if you ever notice, you're gonna get more bleeders the faster you whip it up. I always say, like, knead the lightener, right? So I'm gonna be very gentle with it, right? And I always add less developer to more, because what ends up happening is when you add more developer to less lightener, then that's when you have to add more product and more waste. So I like to do about like a half a scoop in between, right? So I want this lightener to almost emulate like a toothpaste-like consistency, right? It looks nice, but we also want to make sure that it's thick enough, so almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. We want to make sure that it's thick enough that it sticks, because with any sort of balayage, lightening, highlighting, anything like that, if it's too wet, it slips, number 1. Number 2, if there's not enough developer, it doesn't lift enough, okay? So that's why we kind of have to find a happy viscosity between the product. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Now, I call this small batch lightening for 2 reasons. 1, because you're saving product, okay? You wanna make sure that you're always having like an additional, I actually have a little bit of lightener set aside right here, which is also a half scoop. You wanna make sure that you're setting aside your lighteners to make your processing with your client that much easier. So I'll always bring my developer to my station with a pre-made bowl of lightening, okay? The other thing that I do is that what I've noticed is when you mix up too much lightener, you're gonna notice that the lightener will start getting like frothy, or it'll start getting like webby, or what's the other word that I used? Webby, frothy, spongy, right? So when it starts to do that, don't use it anymore, okay? Because that means that that lightener has been extinguished at that point. So it is not a true 10. It is not a true 20 anymore. And that's why small batching is really good. Get through it. So when you small batch, you stay at a consistent 10. You stay at a consistent 20, okay? So this is actually like perfect, right? I love this. I love the way that this feels, okay? So now what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna move her just a little bit closer.
We actually have a quick question if you want to
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so how do you explain the benefits of using Defy Damage as an add-on to your clients and explaining the pricing to them?
So what I like to do is, a lot of people do not know. They say, like, Olivia, how do I explain Defy Damage? Like, how do I tell my client, like, how do I initially sell them on it? What I always say is, my pitch to them is, I'm about to use something in your hair that is going to dramatically change the all over health and integrity of your hair in no time. I'm going to spray this product in your hair, and it's going to help with the process before, during, and after. It's also going to help to reduce breakage up by 80%. And it doesn't take any more processing time. If anything, it accelerates the processing time. And then, of course, when I say these things to my clients, they're like, wow, really? Okay, that's amazing. Obviously, I tell them the pricing, it's the same price as much as you would pay for a toner, right? So with that, additionally, we're going to help to maintain your all over color of your hair. It's also going to help with the longevity and the health. How does that sound to you? Never say, oh, I don't really know, it just kind of does it. You can't do that. You have to ask for the sale. You have to be straight up with them, and you have to be confident. How does that sound to you? Sounds a lot better than, do you want to do it? So that's kind of what I do when it comes to talking to my clients about that. Was there an additional question on that?
I think you pretty much covered it, but we've got a lot of love for the products in the comments, a lot of love for how teaching small batch.
Yeah.
They said there totally changes the game.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys. Continue to keep questions, comments, anything. Keep the engagement high. I feed off of the engagement. So now what I'm going to be doing is, I'm actually going to be starting from the front of her face. Go into the camera. There you go. So I always want to make sure, like, this part right here is a little too deep. I would rather make this part thinner than thicker, always. Because what ends up happening is, on the sides right here, if you extend that foil out too much, you're going to get warm spots on it. Okay, so I'm going to take a small little section in the front, and we're going to clip her back, okay? So she is already pre-protected in her hair. And now what we're going to do is, I want you guys to just see how beautiful this blend is right here, and it's not a hard line. And that's what this technique provides. Also, too, I've actually been getting a lot of people asking about, like, a widow's peak in my lives recently. So it's kind of cool that Courtney has, like, a baby one right here. So I'm going to show you guys how you can actually go with that. So you want to make sure that you map out a straight line right here. Even though there's not hair over here that's going in this area, you still want to make sure that you map this out to get it right at the root, okay? So what I'm going to do, my first one will always be right at the root. So for you, those of you guys that are just tuning in right now, I'm using my Stairmaster technique to give her that all over tweener pick me up. She has grays on top, so I'm going to be using the Lumi 10 100% gray coverage in between the foils 10 minutes before she's processed, okay? So let me go right in. And this one is going to be, the first two are going to be right at the root. Okay, and also, I am not a featherer. I do not feather the hair. Does anyone know why I may never feather the hair? I would love to know if you know, because it is a game changer for not feathering the hair. So now what I'm going to do, now additionally, this is where my money piece comes into play. I want to make sure, turn towards the camera. I want to make sure that I'm always getting these front pieces, but the whole section, everything, like hair cutting, as I'm doing the Stairmaster technique, listen to this. As I'm coming forward, everything is going to lay on the same exact foil. Everything is being over directed to the front, okay? After this foil, I'm going to start teasing, okay? So you see my foils right here. You see how there's a little bit of space in between here. Now, right in the same section. So I'm literally over directing and laying the lightener on the same section forward. So when the hair gets pulled back, it is the most beautiful gradients, okay? So I always explain that lightener is like nail polish. You need one coat, now you need your second coat, and now you need your third coat for full saturation, okay?
We do have some questions wondering what you mean by feathering and why you don't feather.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I was waiting for somebody to ask or even have an answer to it. So there's a few reasons why I don't feather, and I'm going to explain why. Let me jump right into this one right here. Okay. When we feather, right, when we're trying to create a full coverage of lightness from roots to ends in that area, if you feather, meaning you don't fully saturate that area. And I'm going to show you right now what I mean, okay? Jumping into this technique really quickly, I'm going to leave a little skip right here. Just a teeny tiny skip right here. And then grabbing a small section. All right, turn towards the camera. Look at the camera. There you go. Grabbing a small section right here. I'm going to answer the feathering thing, but let me show you the technique. We're only going to tease once, okay? And I'm going to start about midway right here. One tease, one push, okay? Put your chin down. So right here, do you see I'm laying that foil on the same area? Now I'm anchoring down the product, first coat. I fully saturate my feathers. When you say feathering, right, you go up with the product, right? So you go like this, and this is what I see as a big mistake for certain people, is that they don't go back over and fully saturate their feathering. But guess what? If I have full, right, second coat of nail polish, full saturation, and I'm leaving this, go even closer to the camera so they can really see it, right? If this is full saturation, that's a full 20 right there. So what does that mean this is? It's like a 10. So when I go to mix up my color melts, I actually have to go back in and correct. Does that make sense? I have to go back in and think in my head, well, that's only lifted to a level 7, 8 because it was feathered because it wasn't fully saturated. In the meantime, this is already a level 10. So always go back and fully saturate those areas, right? You almost want it to be like a clumpy feather, just like that. Okay, so now I'm doing my third layer of what I call nail polish, right? The top coat, and I'm going back over that area. So you can't see through it at all. Beautiful. Okay, so another thing we're gonna talk about is working our way backwards. So keep in mind, for those of you guys that are just tuning in right now, this is the Stairmaster technique that I'm gonna be doing on Courtney, and I am taking little skips in between, okay? She's a brunette. I want to keep her a brunette. I just want to kind of lighten her up, but I still want to be able to have that depth inside of her hair. So now what I'm going to do is I'm taking another section. I don't want this to be a thick section, but I want it to be impactful, right? And now, can you guess how many teases we're going to do, right? Another way that you guys could see, well, how much, look into the camera. Another way that you guys can see, well, how much is going to be in between? You could actually part the section like that. That's how much depth you're going to see in the hair, okay? So that's kind of how I can figure. Go down, perfect. You're so much easier than a mannequin head. So now I'm going to do 2 teases, okay? We did 1 tease, and now we're going to do 2 teases. So the whole point is I'm going to actually tease a 3rd time, going back this way, a 4th time, a 5th time, right? Because I'm creating more depth. So now what I'm going to do is where I started my tease before, Let me just adjust the camera just a bit. Where I adjusted my tease before, I only started teasing like right here. Now I'm gonna tease up here, okay? And as I get further back, that's where I'm gonna grab. Your hair is way too long. Okay. So as I go back, right? I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here. And that's how you guys are gonna be able to see how much tease is left in the hair. All right, so let me go right into this section and I'll repeat what I say as I do it. So now I'm going a little bit lower with my tease and I'm doing 2. That wasn't it. 1, 2. Okay, so you can kind of see that we're just leaving out some of this depth right here, right? We're kind of getting it out of the way. I don't even mind like kind of like bringing this hair totally back. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually going to weave this, right? Because I want to still have her be a blonde. And I'm taking this hair and I'm over directing it onto the same section here. So now as we go back, we're creating more and more separation. Does that make sense? Turn your head, look at me for it, right? So this one's right at the root. This one's a little further from the root. This is a little further. So when I come all the way back here, we're gonna extend that all the way here, all right? So keep just like that for it. So then,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do have a question wondering how to eliminate lines on the crown area and if you have any tips.
Backcombing. Backcombing is going to be your best friend for eliminating lines and also this over direction, and not to mention how much space you're going to do in between and your separation and your weaves. Literally, this technique is flawless for a blend. Now, you can absolutely still do a melt with her. I'm probably still going to do a melt at a later date with her, but you don't have to, which is awesome. So now go back to camera. Yep, perfect. Not so far down. Yep, perfect. So now I'm going to anchor down my lightener right here. I'm going to start to bring that lightener up. And what I like to do is because this is a weave like almost like W's inside of here, okay? Go up. Go up. So I go in between like W's and V's depending on the amount. So that's my first layer of nail polish, right? Now we're going to my second layer of nail polish, which is what I call my top coat, right? So I go right here, make sure I fully saturate that W, okay? And now I'm going to go back in with my third coat of lightener, like top coat, right, for nail polish, okay? Now, the reason why we want full saturation is because that's what gives us a full 20, okay? So these parts that you're not seeing right here, that's just a part of the W, that's a part of the depth. So between teasing, sectioning, right? Teasing, sectioning, and the W's, flawless blend. Okay, so now the last part that I want to show you that I'm doing that you guys may not be even seeing that I'm doing is the bigger left out, the more gradients. So meaning that if I take a big in between, right, dark section, put your chin down just a little bit. The bigger the section, the more concentrated the lightness is at the front, and then I'm taking bigger sections in between. That's what I mean by how we're kind of working this into place. So now I'm going to take bigger as we go back. More space in between. So I think there's a question. Am I right? I heard you jump in real quick.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions, if you don't mind answering 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So one question is if you have any tips on if you ever have foils slipping using the over direction technique.
No, I never. You guys just saw I teased 3 times now. I never have issues because of the viscosity of the product. Because my lightener is the consistency of toothpaste, I never have to worry about it doing that. And also, I want you guys to notice my embossed foils. So the embossed foils actually eliminate that as well because it gives more of a gripping effect. So that's the biggest difference between embossed and regular foils is the fact that this has more gripping to avoid it from slipping. Now, another thing too, what you're gonna notice with this technique is, as I'm going back more and more and more, I'm actually going to meet her old lightness, right? Because this is just a pick-me-up. I'm gonna meet her old lightness the more I tease. And once you start to meet her lightning, which I'm already starting to see myself there, that's how you know it's gonna be the perfect gradients from the front to the back, okay? And then what's the second question?
So one of them you actually answered. It was someone asking if you preferred a thicker mix. We also have a question wondering why you're doing the foils a bit more down.
So because the reason why we're doing them more down, and I'm going to show you guys after this one, the effect of the Stairmaster, just to give you that idea. So I'm going to answer that in just 1 second. So now what I'm doing, go down even more. So now I'm taking even more depth, even more depth towards the back, right? I'm leaving out hair for more depth because that's going to create a gradient. And I could already see right here where I'm starting to catch up to her old Stairmaster, okay? So now what I'm gonna do, now I'm gonna do 4 teases, which helps the gradients, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Over directing forward, weaving, and this is actually gonna be my last foil because I'm already seeing that I'm meeting her, okay? Okay, going right in with that lightener, my first nail polish, second nail polish, making sure that my feathering is fully saturated in that area. Taking it off to the side. Okay, are you guys ready to see how cool this Stairmaster looks? All right, so Court, I'm gonna have you come to the side. We're gonna back this up just a bit. So now the effect is, look at how all of these foils go like a stairwell. So now visually, think about this, okay? The fact that we have more concentration, less concentration, less concentration, less concentration, that means that when I pull these foils out, right? And they lay within the head, they're going to create that hairline to go back, right? It's going to create almost a teardrop immediately through your blend, right? Through the way your saturation is, through your weaves, through your tease, through the amount of hair that you've taken less and less and less, or excuse me, more and more and more hair in between. It creates the most beautiful blend you've ever seen. Like, this technique is so game changing, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just going to do a few on her sides just to connect this area in the same sort of manner for you guys to have an idea. From there, that's when I'm gonna put on the Lumi 10, okay? All right, so turn this way for me. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm actually just gonna pin those back. And what's great is I wasn't going directly up to the root, so it makes it nice for making sure that you're not getting those bleeders as well, okay? And of course, the viscosity makes a big difference. So now you guys can see right here, that's where the hairline is that I'm going to take for this tiny section right in the front. And then turn towards me just a little bit. Backwards, mess me up. Okay. Now turn this way, just a little bit, perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is, do you see all these little baby hairs down here? With someone being as dark as she is, I do not foil baby hairs on purpose, especially for someone who wants to be like a 10 lightness like this at the bottom. And let me tell you why. If you lighten these tiny, poquito little baby hairs, they will look like breakage, okay? So for someone that wants this kind of lightness, I always try to leave those ones out, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna traditionally foil her. This is gonna create a nice veil, a nice blend for her. And I'm going to use even larger foils, okay? These ones are massive, really good for like taking even bigger sections around the sides. Okay, getting those little hairs out of the way. And this one is going right up to the root, remember. The first one always goes right up to the root. And then from here, fold her. So then now, same thing, that kind of fade away technique is the same thing that I'm going to be doing. So my next one will have one tease, okay? One little push.
So we do have a question kind of pertaining to this. I thought I'd throw in. So Amanda's wondering if you always tease the line where the lightener was previously done.
So no, I don't. I will do, my closest tease will be like closer to the root, the closer I am to the face. But as I go back more, I start down here because I'm adding more depth as I go back. So do a little bit right here, and then more here, and then more here. Because you're the more you push that hair back, the longer it has to come back, right? So it'll give you more depth. So it gives you more of a concentration of lightness around the front, the closer you tease, and then as you go back, you're creating more depth, right? Because you're creating the longer depth from the darkness down here to be pushed away and not to be lightened. So it comes back and it gives you that lightness. That's what helps the blend. So I'm gonna grab that little hair right here. She's already pre-sectioned out. And same thing that I just did on the sides, I'm going to let these foils live in the same exact space. So all of these foils, turn your head towards the camera. All of these foils, literally to the back of her head, which we won't have time to show, but just to give you guys an idea, are going to live in this same foil space. So like hair cutting, you're over directing everything to the front so that when everything goes back, it creates that beautiful gradients and that teardrop effect. Any more questions?
Yeah, we have one wondering, how many foils do you generally recommend using on the top section when using the Stairmaster technique?
So the more foils, the more lightness, okay? If you want more of a blonde look, don't do like 20 foils, maybe just do 10. If you're doing a full technique, right? For her, 1, 2, I did 6 foils, and that's a pick-me-up. So that kind of gives you an idea. But like I said, the more foils you do, the less blonde she's going to be and the more blonde she's going to be. So I would stick in like 10 for blonde, 20 for like heavy, less dimension. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a skip, right? And I'm taking that hair from back here. And keep in mind, this is just a tweener. So this is like an in-between appointments lightning service for her because we want to get her in, out, on the go. So actually after this, I'm going to do just a few more. So right here, this lives in the same spot, right? We're turn towards the camera. So we have that depth from where that section started, over directing, teased it 3 times, right? Full saturation. Doing a little bit of that W. Actually, this one's a small section, so it's a V. First layer of nail polish, second layer of nail polish. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, remember how I mentioned to you guys that she's got a few of those little bit of grays around the top? So now that she's almost processed, and I will only do the Lumi 10 at the top of her head. I'm not going to do it on the sides of her head because she doesn't necessarily need it. She only has 25% gray coverage, right? So this is kind of just a mohawk sectioning of Lumi 10. So the Lumi 10 is incredible. So it's 2 times the amount of shine, 100% gray coverage. It is so beautiful, okay? So what you can actually expect with this is long-lasting color. I'm really excited about it because a lot of my clients have been asking, I want to be in, out, on the go. Would you charge more for this service? Yes, I would absolutely charge more service for this. Number 1, it is a faster technique of you applying this color. But number 2, they will actually pay more to get out faster. So let's just say maybe a 5 or 10 additional to your actual service. And not to mention, I'm going to be doing this in between foils, which is awesome, because what if the client is running late, right? What if that client is running late? What if they are like, oh, can you just do a root color, or can you just pop in some foils, right? Well, now that you have that immediate time within the 10-minute hair color, you could pop in some foils, which what I said earlier in the beginning of this, we don't want to be in the salon longer, but we want to make more money while we're in the salon, okay? So this is like ideal for even just fitting clients in that want a last minute root touch up. Maybe if they want to add on foils, or maybe they just came in for a haircut, but they don't really have time for a 45 minutes, a 55-minute color, but you see a little bit of grace and you'd be like, hey, listen, you know, I'm starting to see your grace pop through a little bit. Would you just like to apply like a 10-minute hair color in, out, on the go? So now I'm just going to throw a number out there. $65 haircut has now turned into a $130 service in no time, in just 10 minutes, okay? So I always recommend with the Lumi Shine that you actually will start, if you're doing a full service, a little hair hack that I have. Let's say you're doing, I'm doing a 6 NA on Courtney today. I would recommend starting in the back first, okay, and doing a 7 NA. So this is a progressive color, okay? Doing a 7 NA on the back side and then moving your formula to the 6 NA around the top. That is the best practices for using this, and it's such a great hack. Another thing about the products is this comes in Ns, NAs, and NWBs, which I will show you a little progress of that in a bit. Where's your color? Okay, so what I'll be using today is the Lumi Shine 10, and I'm going to be doing, I can even show you guys what I'm doing. So this is the Lumi Shine developer. You must use this developer with this product, okay? Super important. Just send it up just a little bit, FAQ.
We have a lot of great questions coming in. If you have some time to take some of those.
I do.
Awesome. So we have one wondering if you create this depth technique only for hair that has been previously highlighted.
Rephrase the question.
Yeah, so with your depth technique earlier, she was wondering if you only use that for hair that has been previously highlighted.
You could run this all the way to the ends. So I'm doing a touch-up, and I've done this technique on her before. I'm just doing a touch-up, but please, by all means, you could start exactly what I just did from scratch. And it's beautiful. Beautiful. I actually have a mannequin, and maybe if there's time, I could show you guys what the final result of this looks like. So now what I'm going to be doing, just because she has just those grays at the top, we just want to cover it up, I'm just going to be doing her mohawk section. All right, that is all. I'm not going to be doing the sides. I don't necessarily need to. All she wants to see is right in that section. So what I'm going to be doing is, if you could please hold this for me. And do we have more questions? I heard you said we have more.
Yeah, there's a bunch more. One question we have is how you would transition a client who was previously highlighted traditionally to this technique for a gradient look.
Okay, so what I would recommend, there's one of two ways of going about this. The client can actually start to naturally grow out their hair, okay? Or you can do a color melting technique on them. So it would almost be like you wouldn't even have to highlight them. You would just do a color melt right on top of their hair. And then when they would come in for a touch-up, that's when they would need to come back in for a Stairmaster technique. So initially, you're not doing the Stairmaster immediately. You have to melt them first, okay? You would have to melt them and do a teardrop melting. I actually have on the BTC U, which I would highly recommend looking at my layer toning technique. It's $19.99 a month. You guys can actually log on to that and see my layer toning technique. That is exactly how you would do the reverse of the Stairmaster, okay? Do a layer toning technique, and then when they come back for their touch-up, that's when you do the Stairmaster. So as you can see, I am just going through, making sure that I'm saturating those areas. Okay, I'm working quickly because this is 10-minute hair color, right? And I'm kind of meeting it up to where that old lightness is, because that's all of her regrowth. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, so we have one wondering how many levels darker is Lumi?
So the Lumi Shine is on tone, on level. After 10 minutes, it starts to deafen. So you want to make sure that you start your clock as soon as you're done with your technique. So what I'll do is, as soon as I'm done applying this mohawk section, I'm going to start my clock. Make sure you use a timer. Always recommend using a timer. It's a lot easier. And then after 10 minutes, you wash it out, and you're perfect. So now I'm just kind of painting on her middle. Let the camera see you. Okay. Just painting on that middle part section. So I already know that where this foil is going. Do you see where this foil lives? Turn your body just a bit. Do you see where that lightness is starting? Right here, right? This foil lives in the front. I put it to the side, and that's where my lightener is. So I know this is gonna be like a pyramid teardrop effect. Turn your head even more. You can even just see with her lightness from her previous Stairmaster technique, because this lightness back here went all the way forward. I over-direct everything forward, okay? So now I just have a few more pieces. And keep in mind, guys, this is being recorded. I will have the afters of Courtney's hair so you could see her pictures. Also on the Joico website, we have a full-on Lumi Shine technique of how I did her hair previous to this, from scratch and not a touch-up. So that is going to be on the Joico website where you guys are able to see that. And I'm just kind of flip-flopping through her parted section just because she kind of flips her hair around just a little bit. And now she's all done with that. We start our timer for 10 minutes. And she is all set. Okay, so show them. Da-da-da, da-da-da. So we are actually at the 41-minute mark. So you guys, I will have the after of this. I will send it to Behind the Chair. They will post it on their Instagram page. Joico will post it on their Instagram page. I, at OMG Artistry, will also post it on my Instagram page. If you guys do have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out and direct message me. Lumi 10, Blonde Life, amazing, fantastic. Do we have any other things that we want to mention?
I think you've pretty much covered it. A lot of people loving the techniques in the comments. Do you have time for any more questions, or do you just want to direct everybody to your Instagram?
Yeah, I think I have time for one more question. You
okay.
And
let me try and find a good one. Lots of questions flowing in. There was a question about you earlier that I think would be fun to answer at the end of the live. They were wondering how long you've been doing hair for.
Oh my goodness. So I've actually been doing hair now for over 12 years. I've been a blonde specialist now for about like 6 years. And that was only, and you can only claim you're a blonde specialist if you've taken like everybody's class. So I've been on BTCU, like taking classes freaking galore. Blonding is my favorite, I would say, my specialty. And now moving into like the Lumi 10 and like the gray coverage, I've actually reinvigorated my passion for gray coverage because it takes like no time. That's a good answer, right? That's a good answer.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of questions to your Instagram as well. There's a lot of people wondering things in the comments, so.
Yeah, and I'll even go back through this and kind of like comment back to you guys to make sure that I answer everything that I didn't answer today. Also, you could just shoot me a direct message. I always get back to my messages online, so it would be really cool to connect with you guys. It's at OMG Artistry. Also, make sure, of course, you're following Behind the Chair and following at Joico. They do have a TikTok now, which is really cool, so make sure you follow them on there as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. Nice meeting you all. Bye.